Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First, say thanks to God for giving us health, and thanks for Ma'am Geminastiti for giving us chance to present this material. And then we are from group 7. The members of group 7 is myself, Nur Aziza, and the second is Claudia Lorenzo Salomo, and the third one is Reski Effendi, and the last one is Andi Mila Safira. So to make time effectively, let's be started this presentation by Claudio Lorenzo. Claudio Lorenzo, time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, moderator, for the change. So in this slide, I will explain about idiom translation. So an idiom is a group of words whose meaning cannot be derived from the meaning of its constituent words. And the opinion of one linguistic expert who commented on the definition of idiom is Crystal 1985 states that idiom or idiomatic is a term used in grammar and lexicology that refers to a series of words that are limited semantically and syntactically, so that they only function as a single unit. For example, the expression "it's raining cats and dog" cannot be translated individually because it is an idiomatic expression that must be translated idiomatically as well, so that the translation becomes "it's raining heavily." Besides, there is an idiom "to kick the bucket," which means not to kick the bucket but to die. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so in this slide I will explain about translation strategies. So Huang and Wang 26 state that there are 3 strategies that can be used for translation. So the first one is literal translation. This involves reproducing the content and style of the entire text while still paying attention to the language style and sentence structure. And the second one is literal translation with the compensation. This strategy conveys that the literal meaning of an idiom in the source text or ST by introducing explanatory information or stylistic effect in the target text or TT. Compensation is employed due to the absence information, but the translator must be still preserve the authenticity of the original expression. And the third one is free translation. This strategy involves conveying the meaning and essence of idiomatic expression in the source text or ST without reproducing the same sentence pattern or language style. Instead, the translation interprets them optimally in the target text or TT. So maybe that's all for me. I give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Claudio Lorenzo. And then the next material will be presented by Reski Effendi. Reski Effendi, time is yours.
Thank you, moderator, for the change. So I will explain about language style translation. So the first point is metaphorical translation. Holman and Harman 1992 state that metaphor is an analogy that compares one object with another object directly, or in other words, it is a style that expresses an expression directly. For example, the source text "he is a bookworm" is translated into the target text in Indonesian, "dia adalah seorang kutu buku." So the phrase bookworm is translated into kutu buku because that is the metaphorical equivalent that fits Indonesian culture. Indonesians do not recognize the cultural term cacing buku but kutu buku. So metaphors are translated by looking for similar metaphorical equivalents. Then the second point is figurative translation. Tamsil or figurative is a majas that expresses indirect expression or comparison of two completely different objects on the basis of similarity in one respect. For example, from the source text, "he is as sly as a fox," translated into Indonesian as the target text is Dia selicik kancil. Now, from this expression, it is analyzed that Indonesian readers may not familiar with the cunning of rubah, but they are familiar with the cunning of kancil. So it is natural that it is not translated into Dia selicik rubah. Then the third point is personification translation. Personification is a technique of treating abstract things. Objects are animals like humans. For example, in Indonesian, it is saat kulihat rembulan, dia tersenyum kepadaku seakan-akan aku merayunya. Nah, if translated into English becomes when I saw the moon, she smiled at me as if I flattered her. Then, the fourth point is alliteration translation. Alliteration is a stylistic device that means the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of a word that forms an established series of words, usually in pairs. This alliteration often appears in literary works, but poetry and prose often appears in newspaper headlines as an expression of attraction for readers, such as summer of support, quips and quirks, frenzy at Franconia, face at future, and others. For example, from the source text is sweet smell of success, translated into Indonesian as target text is semerbak sedap suasana sukses.
Thanks for Rizky Effendi. And then the next material will be presented by Andinila Safira. Andinila Safira, time is yours.
Thank you for the chance. So number 5 is translation of assonance. According to Free 1185, assonance is the repetition of the middle vowel sounds. For example, in the words 5 and a half, pen and make. Usually, assonance as an effective syllable stress is found more in a line of poetry. Furthermore, Harris 2005 argues that assonance is the repetition of the same vowel sound repeatedly in adjacent words that contain different consonants. Jordan 2008 argues that assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in non-rhyming words. And Edgar Allan Poe, in his work The Bells, used the vowel assonance E. Hear the mellow wedding bells. And Robert Louis Stevenson used a vowel assonance in the crumbling thunder of seas. The difference with rhyme is an effect created by combining or matching sounds at the end of content words. For example, the sound effect in the word like cat, fat, differ, repeat, better, sadder, clerical, spherical, cat, cut, hope, and cup. And some example of assonance according to G and U 2008. The first is an murmuring of innumerable beasts from Alfred Lord Tennyson, The Princess Seventh. And the second is the solemnly which sweets abstruser musings from Samuel Taylor Coleridge. And the third is the Scarring for Small Friar sequel in the Dose from Dylan Thomas. And the fourth is Hot and Its Monotones from Stephen Sunday. Sunday in the Park with George. It's hot up here. And the last but not least, with the sound of the ground from David Bew, Low or It Links on a Fire. So in this case, the translators must try to find the sound equivalent so that the speech in the research text can be translated into the resonant speech of the target text. And another example of resonant speech can be translated into Indonesian as follows. The first is source text, hear the melody bells, and the target text, hear the melody bells. The second is source text is the crumbling thunder of the seas, and the target text is the crumbling thunder of the sea. And the third is the source text. It is hot and it is monotone, and the target text it is hot and it's monotone. And the last is the source text is poetry is old, ancient goes back far. It is among the oldest of living things. So it is that no man knows how and why the first poems came. Next is number 6, Euphemism translation. So euphemism is the expression of words that are considered taboo or considered rude with other words that are more appropriate or considered delicate. From Freya 1985, he gives example for the phrase passed away or gone to the great beyond, for the word died, and the phrase earthly remained for the word corpse. For the sentence, his grandpa passed away instead of his grandpa died, so that the translation must be adjusted politely or appropriately, so that it becomes his grandpa passed away or his grandpa died, not his grandpa died, because the word died or dead is only appropriate for animals such as the dog died. And furthermore, Mentaha 2006 at the euphemism is an expression that is conveyed in a subtle and polite manner. For example, in English, there is the expression not the most modest of men, which can be translated into Indonesian as a people who with their simplicity are not abundant. If expressed correctly, it could have been translated into greedy people. Okay, we move to number 7, translation of illusionary verbs. So illusionary verbs are speech act verbs or speak acts, verbs that are in the dialogue guide in direct speech. For example, we want to go, the student said, quotation dialogue guide. The verb in the dialogue guide said is called an illusionary verb. For another example, the speech act verb said may be translated as said, answered, expressed, and others. But what is important is that the verb is translated according to its illusionary verb group, namely as the expansive verb say. And the illusionary verb can be translated into several translation variations, such as the first is source text, we want to go, the student said, and the target text, we want to go. And the second is source text, we want to go, and the target text, we want to go. And the third is source text, we want to go, the student said, and the target text say we want to go, or the student said. And the source text, we want to go, or the student said, and the target text, we want to go, the student replied. Leach 1093 gives examples of some verbs that belong to illusionary verbs, including report, announce, predict, admit, opine, ask, reprimand, request, suggest, order, propose, express, congratulate, and exhort. The last is number 8, translation of illusionary utterances. Illusionary utterances are parts of sentences that assume quotation positions. For example, source text, I am tired, and the target text is I am tired. Based on the context, the utterance I am tired contains several possible purposes. For A, to answer a friend who has just asked me how I feel. In this context, the utterance "I am tired" means I am fatigued and is in the form of a statement. And B, politely disliking someone I was trying to avoid because he asked if I would like to go dancing with him tonight. In this context, the utterance "I am tired" means I'd rather not and is in the form of statement. And C, asking my husband, who was watching TV together, to turn off the TV and go to bed immediately. In this context, the utterance "I am tired" contains the meaning "could we turn this off?" and is in the form of a question or request. And the last, telling my young son to go to bed immediately because it is late at night but he asked me to go see a movie. In this context, the utterance "I am tired" means no, go to bed, and is in the form a command. So the translators perceive their understanding in the form of illusionary speech translation. I think that's all from me. I give it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for Andi Mila Safira. And the next material will be presented by me, Nur Aziza. The next material is translation proper names. According to Crystal 1985, proper nouns are proper names of people, places, and others. For example, Alice, Bill, Jakarta, and London. And you can say in this PowerPoint there's example of the proper names translation. A proper name word in English, Alice, is not translated or not transliterated into a specific a target language, but only adjusted in pronunciation. An example, in your place, you say Alice, but in my place, I say Elias. And then the next material is translation of onomatopoeia. Fry 1985 says that sound imitation or onomatopoeia is the use of words that are formed or pronounced to resemble the sound of something. For example, the word puzz to imitate the sound of insect wing vibrations, the word creak to imitate the sound of broken objects, the word smake to imitate the sound of a punch, the word whinny to imitate the sound of lager, and others. And then the next material is translation of proverbs. Translation of proverbs, according to Hellman and Harmon 1995, say that proverbs are saying that express a recognition of truths about life. In this PowerPoint, you can see the example of translation of proverbs. Source language said a bad workman always blames his tools, and the target language says buruk muka cermin dibelah. Okay, I think that's all explanation from me, and then maybe that's all from us to present about the translation of idioms and stylistic. We are apologies if there are any mistake during the presentation. Thank you for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.